First type of PE that we will be covering is the fixed place PE. This is written in Article 5, Para 1 of OECD Model Convention. The exact words of OECD are, for the purpose of this convention, the term permanent establishment means a fixed place of business through which the business of an enterprise is wholly or partly carried on. After reading this definition, as per the bare OECD law, we do not understand the main idea, like what we have to do practically to check whether a particular business transaction of a foreign enterprise in India trigger the risk of forming a fixed place PE or not. So to understand it in a better sense, we have to apply the 4 tests. As per OECD, a foreign company shall constitute a fixed place PE in India and the following conditions need to be satisfied. First test is the place of business test. Second test is the disposal test. Third test is the fixed place of business, or you can say permanence test. And the fourth test is the business activity test. It is pertinent to note that all the aforesaid conditions are cumulative and are required to be satisfied in aggregate. And if any of the conditions above are not satisfied, the PE of the foreign entity cannot be considered to have been established in India. So, we will understand each test one by one so that you will get to know how to apply these tests practically in a situations where business transactions are performed by foreign enterprises in India. Now move on to our first test, that is the place of business test. Place of business is any premise, facility, machinery, office, branch, factory, warehouse, etc. used by a foreign company to conduct its business in India. Second test is the disposal test. It is essential that a foreign company has the right to use such place of business, that is, it should be at the disposal of the foreign company to constitute a fixed place PE in India. Now let's understand these 2 tests through an example. For example, a salesman regularly visits a major customer to take orders and meets the purchase director in his office. Does this transaction done by the foreign enterprise pass the disposal test? No. Since the customer's premises are not at the disposal of the enterprise, since the foreign enterprise has no right to use customer premise as his own office, so the disposal test fails. And if any one of the test fails, then that transaction do not trigger the fixed place PE of the foreign enterprise in India. The third test is the permanence test, or we can say it a fixed place PE test, fixed place of business. Permanence test, fixed place of business is, it is essential that there is a certain degree of permanence in relation to the business activities of the foreign company in India. That is, it should not be of a temporary nature. According to the OECD commentary, if a foreign company maintains a place of business in another country for a period of more than 6 months, this is likely to constitute a fixed place PE. But this time period of 6 months is only of the recommendatory nature, and it is not always decided by this 6 months period. Even if this is for the 3 days, then also it can constitute a fixed place PE, and this 3 days period concept we will cover in a famous case law of Formula 1 World Championship case law of 2017, where Supreme Court finds that it constitutes a fixed place PE. Now this is also described in the UN model in its commentary. However, there are certain exceptions as we have covered the limited duration or 3 days concept as in the Formula 1, and second exception is the recurring activities where OECD commentary indicates that in such a situation the number of times its place of business is used by the foreign company should be aggregated to determine the existence of a fixed place PE. So the best example of limited duration is the Formula 1 case law, which we will be going to cover in our upcoming slides. Now, the fourth and the last test is the business activity test. For a foreign company to constitute a PE, its business activities should be undertaken at a fixed place of business. As we have covered that there must be a fixed place of business that should be at the disposal of the foreign enterprise. Then that fixed place of business which is at the disposal of the enterprise, in that fixed place of business there must be some business activity which is going on. If in that fixed place of business there is no business activity conducted by the foreign enterprise, then that does not constitute the PE. However, even if a place of business is at the disposal of a company and the permanence test is satisfied, its PE cannot be constituted in India unless it engages in its business activities at this place, which I have covered. This is in the decision of the Morgan Stanley and Company case law. Supreme Court held that when a local subsidiary engages only in the back office work in India of the overseas parent, it does not constitute a PE, since no business activities of foreign company are undertaken in India. Similarly, there is another case law, Airlines Rotables Limited, where the Mumbai Tax Tribunal held that since none of its business activities which led to its growth in India were undertaken at the warehouse of the Indian company, the warehouse did not constitute a fixed place of business in India. Now, after reading about all the four tests, you have get an idea that how we have to analyze each and every business transaction of foreign enterprise which they are performing in India by applying these four tests to identify whether there is any fixed place PE of that foreign enterprise or not. And the most important condition is that all the four tests need to be satisfied cumulatively to make a foreign fixed place PE of foreign enterprise in India. If any of the four tests fails, then there will be no fixed place PE. In this way, you have to practically apply all these tests to identify the risk of becoming a fixed place PE of foreign enterprise in India. Now, this is a very famous case law of Formula 1 World Championship. In 2017, Supreme Court held that a foreign company can constitute a PE even if its activities in India are undertaken only for 3 days. You all must read this judgment thoroughly to understand the implications of this judgment in a better way. This decision was based on its reasoning that if a business is conducted in India by a foreign company for a limited number of days during which it has complete control over and access to it, this is sufficient for it to constitute a PE in India. So this case law is the best case law that you can refer to understand the exact meaning of the fixed place PE conditions that we have earlier understand.